Have you found it easy to connect with people here?
I did. I did find really hard in some ways. First, because I didn't have enough English at the start, and sometimes, like even if I wanted to hang out and be part of certain groups or certain people, I just couldn't communicate. And also, the groups of people that I was meeting, they were like friends from years prior. So sometimes it was like hard to fit into a story when, like a drinking night and they will be like, oh, yeah, in high school we have this story or this. And it was kind of like hard to engage to situations that I wasn't here. So in a way, some of my relationships, I was a spectator of the area in a way. I make a really good mates as well. But being an immigrant is also quite isolating because it's so many emotional things that we go through that we don't talk with other people. So when, for me, it's hard when someone passed away back home because it's a grief that I don't physically go through. It's all mentally, it's all emotional. And no one else can feel it because they haven't met any of the people that I love, that I am connected with. So it's so much unseen in an immigrant life, and it's hard to connect with some people because, so it is nice, but it's hard. It's hard because in a way it's like you have a Spanish life and you have an English life, and sometimes they mix, but sometimes they don't.
What are you passionate about? Work, art, the environment, people?
Oh, so I really love music and dance and art in general. I've been dancing since I have memory. It's been big part of my life, and I think that that's my biggest passion. Just the communication through art to to express yourself in a way that you can connect with others. And I think dance and any kind of art do that. Traveling, when you travel, you are able to expand your mind and yourself and to be able to understand other cultures. And definitely history. I am really passionate about learning history and about places, and is always a story to be told, and I feel like quite passionate about that, and I think that is also why I ended up studying psychologist, because is to understand yourself, you can do it understanding other humans' conditions. So I think, I'm passionate about arts and people and in realness and in wildness and all these things that are maybe not easy to find.
Yep. Okay. What's the most Kiwi thing you've experienced so far? Have you tried a hangi or a meat pie yet?
So I have tried the pies. Love the pies. I think that would be the most Kiwi.
A pie?
Yeah.
A Johnny Nations pie?
Yes. And the air clears. Yeah.
Oh, the eclairs, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Real healthy stuff, eh?
Yeah. So in Colombia, we have, we call them pasteles, and it's like they are made with corn flour, and they are deep fried. So when I eat a pie, it kind of reminds me to the pasteles. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Same is healthy, like same 5 stars of healthiness.
Yeah. If you
A
could share
message.
one message with your new community, what would it be? Okay.
But I will say that this place, Raetihi, I've been a month living here, and I don't know what it's about this town that it make me feel home, and I really love that. So a message for the communities. I feel grateful for that because it's something about Raetihi that it feels like a neighborhood, and it kind of like make me feel like I am home. Yeah. And I never felt that way in Ohakune. And we are 10 minutes away.
Yeah, it's a totally different vibe here, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I've been surprised by the Latinos that are hiding. So I've been finding that it's a few Latinos living in the area. And, I know a few of them, but I know it's a lot more. So in a way, it's kind of like interesting to see that. I was maybe surprised when I moved the first time to the country with it makes sense by the geographic location of New Zealand, but the amount of Asians. And it's also in a way because in Colombia, 7 years ago, maybe we didn't have that big influence from Asia. So coming here and being able to meet a few people in their background and their culture, it's been really nice and interesting for me, because it's like New Zealand has been a country that I have found people from every single part of the world, and that's amazing. Yeah.
What's one Colombian thing you reckon we all need to try at least once? A dance? A feed? What? As New Zealanders, what would one Colombian thing you reckon we all need to try?
A real passion fruit. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. In Colombia, we have the maracuja smoothie or juice, and I really think that's something that New Zealanders should try, because New Zealanders are crazy about feijoas, and I am like feijoas.
But maybe that's because the feijoas are easy to grow and the passion fruits aren't.
Yeah.
Maybe our climate. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, I like passion fruit.
Yeah, it's just a different kind. It's not the purple little one. So we have another one, and it's cool. So we have the granadilla, and it's like a little, like it's orange, and the outside part is like really hard. So you break it down, and it's like all the little seeds, and it's just like yummy and sweet but bitter. That's just different to the passion fruit that you find in New Zealand. So yeah, I think like that type of passion fruit, every people should try that.
Cool. Okay, we'll get that out there. What do your mates back home reckon when you tell them that you live here? Do they think you're on a sheep farm or married to a hobbit or something like that?
No, most of them are like, wow, you are in a dream country. You have a dream life. Never give up that dream. And, it's like, yeah, I get, a lot of like good comments on like the place where I live in the environment. And it's quite cool. But it's also like people that want to come over or visit. It's a hard country to access. So it is like really expensive for someone to be like, hey, I'm going to come and see you, because it's really far away. And just for a Colombian to apply for a New Zealand visa, minimum they have to show up 30 grand in their bank account. So that's pretty much very unrealistic for a Colombian that is on a minimum wage or no, like medium class. Yeah.
Oh, so class structure.
Yeah. So from 1 to 6. Yeah.
Who's the Prime Minister over there or President?
So we have a president. So we don't have prime ministers. Like most countries in Latin America have presidents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think Puerto Rico might have a prime minister, but I'm not sure really. Like I haven't been into politics.
Yeah.
But
It's okay. Yeah. Have the locals been treating you right, or do we need to send the aunties around with a tray of scones and some threats?
No, I've been treated well. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear. What's your dream while you're here? Are you planning to stay, build something, start a revolution, or just vibe?
All of them.
All of the above. Cool.
Yes.
And finally, any wise words for the locals watching this story with their feet up and their dogs on the couch? Have you got a proverb, a saying, or anything like that?
As Colombian, we live with our guts. Our intuition is our first thing, and I think this is a place where sometimes that gets forgotten, and you guys have so much richness in this country, and so many benefits and things that people can't see. I hear a lot about how New Zealand have a broken system, and yeah, sure, right? It's not perfect, but in a way, it's a lot of things that when you are in a place of benefit, you cannot see a struggle, and sometimes coming from a place where I have seen a struggle and extreme poverty and a lot of violence and gangs just coming and going and doing whatever. It's like when you come to a country like this where people have choice, I will say, make a good choice, because sometimes it's easy not to. But it's a country where you can be whatever you want, and you have the freedom and the access to be that. And it's a lot of judgment and things out there that they are everywhere. If you go to next country, you will find it. But it's about like the richness of this land, the energy, the benefits that you can get of, the knowledge of like hunting. I'm just so impressed with that. Like, it's not something that a Colombian would do easily or know from, where I come from specifically. So I would say just enjoy and really like open your eyes what you have in front. Yeah. I've been doing it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's cool.
Is anything like that you feel like you wanna deep about Colombia, about Medellin, about
just the
Because I know you're curious and you want to ask a few things.
What's your take on Pablo Escobar?
I have mixed feelings about it because, in a way, he did good, like you say, for a lot of people, but it was also a lot of damage. So when I was doing some of my practice as psychologist, I got to work with a few people, and when you hear a story of someone that has his family been just taken, and like it's so much pain in every place, but it's also it's so many feelings about him because I also can admire so many things about him. And so he created a lot of chaos in Colombia and a lot of movement. And, when I grow up, it was a lot of, they are called Bakrim. So they are gangs. And as a child, he was killed in 91. I was born in 91. So I would say that Medellín and the people from Medellín and a lot of people from Colombia, we all have PTSD from the guy. It doesn't even matter if he was good to some people. But, I remember going to the park as a 4 or 5 year old and maybe not coming back in a couple years because it was a shooting related to this war. So it was an internal war that it became part of my life, of a normal life, of a child's life. And we all grow up with these things, and they are normal. And they are, it's painful to say that they are normal because they are not. And you become, I did become so used to just sometimes, see bodies. I'm really sensitive to see a bunny shot or run by a car. And I might cry, But when I see a body of a human, in a way, I have that desensitization because, it was so common to hear shootings, So in a way, I have a lot of feelings about it and about the situation. Later when I was in uni, I have my crazy times where, go to parties and, that used to be a Pablo's house. And, we go to a party in one of his houses and things like that you just don't even think. But it's so much, it's for me, I think in this point of my life, it's just, it's pain. It's pain about him because coming to a country like this and being in a park where you are going to be safe, sometimes it's triggering for me as a mom. Seeing the army sometimes, like first time I saw the army in the rugby field in Ohakune, I freaked out. And I asked my ex-partner, what's going on? And he was like, why? And I was like, what's the army base? Why is guys walking around? Who are they looking for? Because every time you see army in Colombia, they were looking for someone. It was something going on. Sometimes we will have lockdowns of 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Everyone needs to be inside of home because if you were out,
You get shot.
yeah. So, those are realities that they are now in the news. And people don't, a lot of people talk about it. It's a lot of like reconstruction of memory of these times and people that have gone through a lot themselves. And it's so many stories that I have. But they are raw, Sometimes I am not even ready sometimes to process them, and yeah, so, and I have to say, like, being in New Zealand and seeing that from far away, sometimes it's shocking. It's shocking sometimes, like, people come in, they're like, oh, we saw the news about the guerrilla and what is going on. And it's like, people feel empathy for that. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's been happening for what? 30, 40 years. And, is that pain is still there? Do you remember when in Christchurch shooting happened? That was my first approach to, like, I realized my reaction to an event like that because I saw every New Zealander was so deeply affected by the situation. And it was interesting that for me was not something common, but it was maybe like a little bit easier to see just because it's something that sometimes in the news was every day,
So it wasn't like what you're saying. It wasn't. You saw that sort of stuff all the time, so it was nothing new.
Yeah.
The same, I guess, as I noticed in the paper this morning, on the news this morning. The New Zealand Army have got an exercise in Wanganui, so they're going to have soldiers walking around the streets with their rifles. That's nothing for us. It's an exercise. Gee, bro, give me a pie, or they're not. It's not a threatening thing. Whereas you'd see them downtown and think, who's done something wrong? What's going on? Like you did here.
Plus, I won't trust any authority.
You don't?
No.
Neither do I.
No, at all. I won't trust any authority in Colombia. It's like for certain processes, like in New Zealand, you go to court and it's all these kind of things. But like, I don't know if I can talk about this, but, like I got put out one time with weed, and I knew my rights and what to answer for them not to check me out. But, some of them don't give a fuck.
No.
They would just do it and take everything or whatever they want. And sometimes, it's for their own use, right? So, but then, you never know who is going to be the good one or if it's any good one, And so, yeah, it is an interesting thing because sometimes, and then is when we come to the good and the bad. Sometimes I will believe more, I will trust more the gangs. That is people that I know, that maybe I grow with a few of them.
The lifestyle,
Be friend of some of them, right? And they are not my friends, It's not someone that I can fully trust, but I might trust them more.
Than the government.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the same here too. Same in New Zealand. Maybe not to the same extent. I think our problems aren't as deep. Do you have indigenous people in Colombia?
Yeah.
Who are they?
So Colombia has I'm not sure. I think it's over 100 or more iwis in the area in Colombia. We have, I think it's around 40% of Colombia is part of the Amazons. So it's a lot of iwis based in there.
Tribes.
Yes, tribes. We also have in the Pacific, so what is like, have you heard Cartagena, Barranquilla? Up there is like desert, and there's some settlements there as well. It's a place called the Lost City, and it's like one of the most popular ones. And to get access to that, you have to walk 4 days. You do your hike, and you get to the settlement. And it's, like one of the originals, indigenous settlements.
Because here we've got, like when I talk about indigenous, I'm talking Maoris and Europeans.
Yeah.
So Maoris are deemed to be indigenous.
Yes.
In Australia, you've got the Aborigines who are indigenous, and Papua New Guinea, you've got the indigenous people. In America, you've got the Indians, the American Native, Native Americans,
Yes.
who are indigenous. So, from that perspective, to put it in a box, if you like, who are the indigenous peoples of Colombia, or is it still indigenous? Everybody's indigenous.
So Colombia, was colonized, right? And pretty much like, most of the population, we are like a mix. Colombia was colonized, and it was like Arabics were brought, Africans. It was just a mix of all the, pretty much, the prisoners and all the rubbish that Europe didn't want. They sent them to the Americas, and they were the slaves that were, picking up the gold and taking it back to Spain and Europe, right? So a lot of our ancestors come from Europe. And the indigenous, they were like, Amazons, what is like...
Incas?
So Incas, Aztecs, they are like central of American Central. So that's like Mexico and Guatemala. And like, so that's Aztecas and Mayas. The Incas, they are down in Peru. Yeah.
So these are all South American countries, eh?
All Latin America.
Nicaragua.
Yeah. So back in the history, it was just like the Incas having all the South America. From my understanding, I probably should have to study more. Incas dominated South America, and the Aztecs were all American Central. Mayas were all American Central from, like Guatemala down to Panama. And then it's like all the indigenous. I actually don't know if it's a specific name for the indigenous located in Amazons, because it's so many tribes.
You been to Guatemala?
No, I've been into Mexico, in Panama, but no, I haven't been to Guatemala.
Oh, you say you wouldn't have met Dr. Opata yet?
No.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I always looked at the Aztec temples, the Mayan, because the Mayan calendar and all this sort of stuff, the doomsday stuff. Yeah. It's all based around South America.
So when I live in Mexico, I did high school there. So I learned a lot of history in Mexico. And part of the trips from high school were to the pyramids. So we used to go, and it was very interesting because it was kind of like my first approach to indigenous. In Colombia, the indigenous, they have been suppressed, and they probably have been having a voice. It's starting, what maybe Maoris did 10 years ago. The languages haven't been spoken. It was, straight to Spanish. So all those things that Maori live in some point with colonization, all the indigenous in the Americas, and I am talking from Canada to Chile and Argentina, all of them were suppressed, right? And we that are considered, I don't know, white or just a mix, because, you know, in some countries I am not white enough, but I'm not black enough, right? So we're just a mix. Yeah. And yeah, so it's been very interesting. So when I was living in Mexico, it was pretty cool to learn about indigenous and their culture and the way their philosophy, you know. So understanding the hierarchy of how their society used to work and how each person has a role and how it was like the warriors, and, you know, it's so fascinating. Like, I really got in love with the Mexican culture because it's so rich. Going to the pyramids, you know, you walk into these places that is like how they did this, how they put a pyramid up, you know, and it's just mind blowing. So for me, coming to this area, so when after I established myself and I had my work visa, I was working in the gardens, picking sprouts and digging potatoes. So, you know, each morning, you know, you go in the truck, and so it was this morning, you know, and they were there. And it was something so unusual for a small town because I never see a police around. You know, sometimes you see a car, but it's no police around. And sometimes you drive and the police station is closed. So it's like, you know, the place where we used to live, it was like sometimes not even lock the door. So it's like these things. So when I saw the army, it was just like, not like I panicked, but I did. Because it's like, it's just like you are back to that survival mode on like something is going on. So you need to be aware and, you know, check, you know, look at your back. And so I used to ask Tyler, like, why is the army here? What's going on? And, oh, no, it's only for training and things like that. And I was like, right, okay, cool. But, you know, it's still like, I still see army, and sometimes it's like, what's going on? You know, I am aware, but.
Was it because, so when over in Colombia, when the army was around, there's a trigger. So what was the army in Colombia doing? Like
what they were doing. So it was a lot of times that my brother was a teenager, right? And in Colombia, going to military service for males, it was mandatory. So after you turn 18, you had to go to the army. And back in the day, it used to be this very illegal practice that the army or people that wear army uniforms were around in big trucks. And because at the time, the government who was there, they needed to have numbers of putting like guerrilla down. So, you know, like it was something about war that I can elaborate in another time a little bit more. But the trigger is they used to come in big trucks, pick up guys, disappear them. They wouldn't appear, some of them disappear. So it's a lot of like, it was always scary, if we were going to go out. If my brother was out, mom was always like, you need to come back before this time. If you are not home by this time, you can be taken away. Or, like these kind of stuff. And sometimes, like, I remember we have the neighbor from, next door. He was in a motorbike once. And just because the neighborhood where we used to live, it was an army base next to us as well. So going around, sometimes they would have like alerts that they would have like, I don't know, just like, they would have like lockdown, so prepare for any attacks or kind of things like that. And the neighbor got shot by them just because they thought he was something suspicious. And, it's like two teenagers in a motorbike. I am aware that how that looks in a motorbike, two guys in Medellín. But, it's like these kind of things that you grow up all the time. Like, you never know when it's going to be your turn. You never know who of your friends, of your family is not going to come back. And you think that you can trust army or police, but that's not a real fact. As a female as well, you don't want to get caught by a cop at all, So, it was always jumping about those things because a lot of people disappear. And recently, one of the fosas is where you find like lots of bodies.
Cemetery?
No. When over the years you go and they like find...
mass graves?
Yes. They found one of, like years ago when these things were happening, and hundreds of bodies were found there.
Is that through Pablo's time?
No, this was through an ex-president. I can give you his name later because I don't feel comfortable talking about him. But and it's a lot of the corruption and the violence and narco traffic and a lot of things happening in Colombia have coming from then. But, it's a long story. It's a long story. And probably related to, because in some point Pablo was part of politics too. So, it's so much background. And in some point, Pablo used to have connections with the army too, from my understanding and things like that. So I actually went to a uni. Funny. I went to a uni and I graduated myself from a university that Pablo donated the land.
Yeah, so he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got, the legacy is still there.
Yeah.
Where's Venezuela?
Next door, next to Colombia. Yeah. So Colombia is neighbor with Panama, Venezuela, Ecuador, and through Amazons is the 3 connections through the river. Yeah.
What's your take on the deforestation of the Amazon?
Terrible. Because, I appreciate Amazons as, Latin America is the heart of the world. We all know that. We find a lot of passion. We are full of passion, and in relation to that, we are connected to the land. And over years, it's just been like, so much taken away. And it's like, people have been moving. It's not only like, let's come and put trees down. It's full towns be moving because of deforestation. and tribes and animals. And, it's like all the wild animals and the flora and fauna that it was there is also taken away. So I am not indigenous, but I probably would say that an indigenous from there will have a lot to say and a lot to feel, because they are deeply connected to the land, and they can feel it. It's the same with like all the medicine. Now it's all around the world, and it is kind of like people come for fun, but it's so much secretness about the land that people doesn't know, and it's just been taken away.
Do you want to do something in Spanish for your people out there that might see this?
Yeah. No, nada. Ahora que estoy lejos y desde otro lugar y que soy mamá, aprecio mucho mis raíces, mi cultura, mi comida, mi música y todo lo que me conecta a mi tierra y al lugar donde nací. Simplemente quiero como dar gratitud por eso, por haber nacido en una tierra como Colombia y por haber tenido como la oportunidad de tener las primeras bases de vida en un país donde hemos crecido a punta de resiliencia, a punta de esfuerzo y a punta también de vivirnos la vida como se venga. Así que, nada, desde acá, desde Aotearoa, yo me vivo la vida como lo más colombiana posible y nada, me siento muy orgullosa de estar acá en este país y de seguir adelante, aunque no es algo fácil. Y gracias a George por tenerme acá, por invitarme y por darme como un espacio de contar un poquitico de mi historia y de lo que sé. Y bueno, nada, muchas gracias.
Cool. I know the last part. I have no idea what you said.
Do you want to try it?
No.
Just say it.
A special shout out to everyone watching from Colombia and to our dear Eliana. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Welcome to your new home in Aotearoa.